In the last program, we had seen a connected way of architecture with ADO.NET, and we had performed retrieve, insert, update, and delete on your own. We have completed these operations. And let me just quickly revise what are the keywords what we saw in the connected architecture. We had seen three different keywords in the connected architecture. First one is connection itself. Second one is command, SQL command. Third one is a data reader. Please be very clear of what we have discussed in that connected architecture, because disconnected is going to be a totally new concept. Connected is was somewhat similar to what we had already come across in JDBC, but disconnected is a little bit different concept. Okay, so what we had done was, when there was retrieval operation alone, okay, when there is a retrieval operation, we used connection, command, and reader. But if it is just update, delete, or insert, then you should use command and connection alone. Okay, reader is not required when there is nothing to read. Okay, just like how we had in JDBC, execute query, execute update. So there was clear distinction between that. Okay, now what we are going to see today, there is no distinction between retrieval and insert. Code will be same for everything. Okay, you have a connection, obviously you require connection whether it is a desktop or a laptop. Power supply is required. Just like that, whether it is connected architecture or disconnected architecture, we require the source of data and the connection to that source of data. One. Second is, instead of command, we do not use a command here. Rather, just like how our laptop and mobiles work, between the power supply and our actual content, we have something called charger or adapter. So the command thing will be replaced with something called adapter here. Okay, the second keyword is adapter, and that adapter is not charging your laptop, rather it is charging the battery of your laptop. Okay, just like that in your mobile also, same idea. When it comes to here, we do not take the database itself here. We create a copy of the database and store it temporarily in an XML based infrastructure. We call that as data set. Okay, so three keywords, I'm repeating it again: connection, data adapter, as well as data set. Please note, all these three are required, whether you are just, for example, if you are opening the laptop just to check your mail, or just to see whether the charge is there, or just to see the time, you are opening the laptop, the supply is required, otherwise the battery is required. All these things are required even if you are just opening your connection. So here in disconnected architecture, retrieval, insert, update, delete, it doesn't matter what you're performing, all these things are compulsory. You will have to do all the three what do you call classes in order to perform any operation in disconnected architecture. Okay, so basically when you are filling the adapter, okay, using the adapter, you're filling the database. Please remember that one. You fill your battery by the help of your charger. Okay, technically you fill the lithium ion battery which is there in your phone or laptop with an adapter. Okay, the adapter's work is to take the current which comes from that socket, like 224 volts, and convert it into 11 or 12 or 18 volts, exactly how much you require. Okay, that is conversion, that adaptation. Okay, here what am I doing? I'm getting data from SQL database, which is like hardcore SQL. From that, I'm converting it or adapting it into a data type which is simple and elegant for me to use, which is XML. So the one which does this performance or this conversion, we can call it as adapter. Okay, so let's get into the program. So just like how I did connected architecture, here also, first thing, I've just created a simple ASP.NET web application called disconnected ADO. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to add a new database. Okay, please note, the database which I created for that project remains in that project only. I cannot access it in this project. Reason is I created as a SQL Server database file, not a server database. Okay, when we did JSP and Servlet, we created a MySQL database in PHP-MyAdmin. It is global to my entire system. Okay, but when it comes to Microsoft SQL, if it was a server, it would have been global. But I did not create a server. I rather used a Microsoft SQL Server file. So that file is stored inside that project. I'll not be able to access it here. Here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to right click on this particular project and add a new item. Okay, let me just add a new item, and from that, let me choose data. From the type of template which is available, I'm going to choose data and then choose SQL Server Database. And here I'm going to name it as employee DB. This is the name of my database, not the table. This is my database name because it is stored in an MDF file. Okay, so let me just show you once again. Add new item, data, SQL Server database, and I named it as employeedb.mdf. Let me just add it to my project. When I click on add, the system understands that it is a database and it is a special type of file. So would you like to put it inside app_data folder? Yes. So that will be created inside app_data folder. Now, sometimes, as I told you in the last class, if at all the system is taking too much time, or probably if there was a timeout, if you get, just try it once again, it will work. Okay, sometimes the system might be slow, so just bear with it and make sure that you click on retry, or just add it once again, and the database file should be added here. Okay, so once the app_data folder shows employeedb.mdf, then you are ready to go. So now let's go to the left side of your Visual Studio. There will be something called Server Explorer. So let me open that, or if you can just open this here also, it's fine. Just click on open. Okay, it will rather open the file in that Server Explorer only. You can see that the Server Explorer is opened up, and you will have to choose employeedb.mdf. Okay, so let me just show. There is a table structure here, but there is nothing there inside. There is something called table, but no tables. So let's add a new table. Let me right click on the tables folder, add new table. Okay, so a new table structure would be created, but it will not be saved in your database unless you update it. So I'll just get a normal design structure like this. Do not forget to remove this word called table from here. Otherwise, your table will be named as table, which is kind of confusing because all our syntax is like create table, table name. Okay, so remove that word table and give a table name there. So I'm going to say TBL employee details, or you can just put TBL employees. Okay, whatever you want to name it as. Please do keep it in mind. DBO, do not change, let it be there. But this word where I saw table first, rename it with whatever table name you want to give. Do not forget this. After that, you need not type anything here. You can go back here. Okay, so let me just give it as employee underscore ID. Okay, that's an integer. It's a primary key already mentioned. If you right click on that, you have an option of removing primary key. Okay, so you can remove it, or you can just say set primary key. Possible. All right. So once you have set the primary key, also what if I would like to keep that as an auto increment? Let me right click on that and say properties. Right click on that particular column, okay, that particular data, and then say properties. And in the properties tab, okay, let's find a property called identity specification and just change that from false to true. What if it remains false? If it remains false, it will be still primary key, but you have to give the value. That's all. Okay, you will have to manually enter what is the employee ID. All right, otherwise you can ask the system to generate it. Let me ask the system to generate it by saying true. And seed of the identity is 1, starting with 1 and increment by 1. Let me just change it as 101. So which means starting is 101 and then it will increment by 1. So first person, when you insert a record, he'll be given employee ID as 101. The next person will be 102, and it goes on like this. Okay, so that is my identity specification. In other words, the primary key auto increment. Okay, that is done. Second one, I'm going to name it as employee underscore name. Let me keep it as varchar. Okay, be very careful when you choose this. There'll be n varchar. Never choose that. Just keep it as varchar because that's what you've been familiar with. Okay, so let me just give varchar 50. Okay, and you can change the size however you want. I'm going to say employee underscore desig. Okay, so let me just give it as varchar again. And last one, I'm going to give year of joining. So I'm going to say employee underscore YOJ. We'll just name it as, I'll just give it as int. That's it. And no nulls are allowed. We'll just say not null for everything. Okay, so this is my table structure. I have employee ID, employee name, employee designation, employee, year of joining. I've given so much records only because let's understand the logic, then we'll come to database. I'm not trying to explain database here, guys. I'm trying to explain how to insert or update or perform operations on a database from ASP.NET. My focus here is on ADO, not on databases. Okay, so anyway, Once this is done, please note still table is not created here because you have to click on update. Whatever I've done is temporarily stored in a cache, but it is not reflected unless you click on update database. So it will create a script, and once the button is enabled, click on update database. Once you do that, and once the update is complete, once the tick mark comes here, then go back to tables and then say refresh, and your table, what you gave that name, TBL employee title, should be created and it must be there. You can right click on it and say show table data. Okay, this is the table design or the table structure. Now I am in the table data. Okay, so let me just enter a random value here. So I'll just say Karthik, and employee designation is manager, and let me say year of joining is 2010. Okay, so please note when I just gave that value, employee ID was automatically assigned as 101. That's my increment starting, the seed, and the next person when I enter, it will become 102 and goes on. So I have some data right now. Let me refresh and see whether the data is still there. It is still there, so which means my data is permanent. I've inserted. Okay, that's all with the database part. Now let's go to, by the way, this part normally we do not do. In a company, this will be done by database management team. You cannot be doing this manually. You'll have to do only through program. Okay, so let me just go to our Solution Explorer. Let's right click and add a new ASP.NET file. Okay, let's create a web file, a web form with the master page, and let me name it as retrieve or display dot whatever name you want to give. Okay, display.aspx or something like that. Let me just give it as retrieve.aspx with a site.master. The first operation I'm going to perform is a simple retrieve. Okay, I'm going to retrieve that data from the database and display it in my page. Okay, in the previous program, I did insert first, then I went to retrieve. Here, let me first finish that query because everything is going to look the same. So I'm going to go into the first one, retrieval. Okay, so let's wait. And please note in ASP.NET, we do not require that tr, td, while result set.next, nothing is required here. Okay, for that we have a different choice. We have something called a grid view, which is a data control. Okay, it will be available in data control. Let's just drag and drop a grid view. Before that, just to show that it is that this is the data, I'm going to put a label first, and let me change the property of the label so that the label says list of employees, and you can change its color and all those things however you want. Let me just give blue. All right, and also I'll change the font size to be large. Okay, so I have some list of employees given. Next, now let me just drag and drop a grid view. So once I put a grid view there, now the grid view is displayed in a simple format there. Okay, this is a grid view, but please see the source, nothing is there. It's just ASP:grid view. It will be translated into a HTML table when you run it. Okay, so what I should do now, since it is going to be translated into a HTML table, I can apply all the CSS class of a table here. I'm going to say table hyphen hover or table hyphen bordered, however you want to give. You can give all those options here. So the table is now transformed, or grid view is now transformed, and you can see that how it will look like. Now I'll just change the property of it, ID. I'll just name it as GV grid view employees. Done. So my design part here is very simple. It's done. Now the next thing I need to do is to make sure as soon as the page loads or the retrieve.aspx page loads, I want all the details which are there in the table to be retrieved and displayed here. How do I do that? Let's press F7. It will take me to the C# code of that same file retrieve.aspx, which is inside a project called disconnected ADO. Okay, this is my class. Retrieve.aspx is a file, but for C# it's considered as a class. Okay, so now as soon as the page loads, what do you want me to do? Okay, I want you to open, or I want you to get the SQL connection and then perform an operation called select star from table name, retrieve everything and display it in that grid view. This is the simple English way of telling it. So let's first start with connection. Okay, to which database am I connecting? So first I need to import using, okay, let me say system.data.sql client. Please understand this, because the connection as well as the adapter, they all belong to SQL, but data set is not SQL. Data set is XML. Okay, remember that. So I'm going to say SQL client. It is still same SQL client which we are using. How do I start? Let me start with SQL connection. Let me name it as con is equal to new SQL connection. Now, what am I supposed to pass here in that SQL connection as constructor is the connection string. So, since it's a string, I'll put double quote. And since I want to escape all the slash and backslash and stuff, I'll put an at just before that double quote. Okay, and inside this, what to put? That you will get it from your database itself. Okay, please note this is your syntax. Okay, do not forget this. This, what I'm typing inside the double quotes might change based on what type of SQL you're using, but code is still the same. Okay, let me go to Server Explorer. Let me right click on the database, not on the table, on the database, and say properties. When you go to the properties of the database, one of the property of the database is the connection string to come to that particular database. So let me just copy that all and paste it here. Okay, now please note there will be still an error. The error is nothing but you have put double quote starting. Okay, you will have to remove the double quote and make it as single quote here, or you can make this as single quote and make it as double quote there. Okay, so either way, make sure that there is no single quote or double quote problem. Okay, so this is not working because that add only works with double quotes. So I'm going to bring it back. Let me put it as double quote only, and inside where that path is mentioned, okay, I had told you that I'll be giving you an absolute path. Right now it is absolute path. We'll be changing it into a relative path. Okay, so let me do that in the next class. Today, let me keep it as it is. Instead of double quote, let's put single quote because we are already inside double quotes. Done. Okay, so now this, by the way, this is only one time, guys. After that, in the entire project, we will not be using this. Okay, in the next class, what I'll be doing is, I'll be doing same thing, but I'll be having a mixture of connected and disconnected in one project, and I'll create everything in one C# file and just call it in these files. So I'll not be repeating this code like how I'm doing in the first two projects. Okay, you will have to make it as optimized as possible. Here, this is for demonstration purpose. I'm repeating this code again and again. Code repetition is redundancy. Never do that. Okay, I am using it here because I want you to understand how this particular block works. Okay, so once you have understood this logic, next project onwards, what I'll do is I'll create a separate C# file in which all operations are already done. I'll be just calling that method here in my ASPX file. Okay, that I'll do in the next class. Okay, let's continue. So SQL connection is created. I'm going to say con.open. So connection is opened right now. What's the next step? Okay, next step is in connected architecture, the next step would have been SQL command. Here it is not command, it is SQL data adapter. Please note the class name, data adapter. Let me just name it as DA. Okay, data adapter is equal to new SQL data adapter. Now, those who remember what was the two parameters you have to pass to a command, SQL command. One was what is the command to be passed. Number two, where to execute it. What to execute, where to execute. Those are the two parameters which you need to pass to that SQL data adapt or SQL command constructor. Here, same thing. So you need not remember a lot of things here. If you remember the logic, the flow, the keywords only are important here. Now I need to pass two parameters to the SQL adapter constructor. One is the command. What SQL command would you like to execute? Second one is on top of which connection would you like to execute it? So let me keep it as simple. Here, first one is what is the command? Second one is on top or where do you want me to execute that particular command? Okay, please note this is the syntax. Same syntax as SQL command. Only thing is the keyword is different here. Here it is called SQL data adapter. Okay, so now in this double quote, you are supposed to pass the SQL query and where to execute this query on top of that connection object. Same thing. So here, what is my query? Select star from TBL employee details. This is my table name. So select star from table name. That's the query. Where do you want to execute it? On top of this con object, connection object. Okay, done. So adapter is also ready. Now in connected architecture, what we did was we just said data reader and we said command.execute reader. Here what we need to do is, it doesn't matter whether we are doing retrieval, insert or update, code is going to look the same. For this, I require a data set. Okay, guys, there is a small distinction here. Please understand that. SQL connection, SQL data adapter, but where you're going to put everything, whether you're using SQL or MySQL or Microsoft SQL or Oracle, it doesn't matter when you convert it. Okay, like for example, you use a Dell charger or a Nokia charger or a Samsung charger, whatever it is, as long as it charges your phone, right? That's all is our target. Our battery is same. One battery we have, but we might be using different chargers at home. Okay, just like that, we might look for the data in some way or the other. Okay, it can be Microsoft SQL, it can be MySQL or Oracle. It doesn't matter. When you convert it, when you adapt it, the current which comes or the data which comes to my system should be in XML format. Okay, that XML infrastructure format is called as a data set here. Okay, so I cannot call data set directly. Please remember that. Okay, please note, where does data set come from? Data set does not come from system.data.sql. Rather, it directly comes from system.data. So let me just press enter. Here it should import system.data separately. Please note, when I import system.data.sql client, only SQL client's packages data will be imported. But when I say SQL system.data, it imports everything which is required for a data set to work. So let me name it as ds is equal to, let me create a new data set. Okay, this is like a battery which has data, set of data. Okay, done. But it is right now empty because you have just created a new instance of data set. You will have an empty data set. How do I fill it? Ask the adapter, please note what I am saying, ask the adapter to fill the data set. Look at this line, guys, it's very, very important. This one small line of code is doing two operations. That's what I want you to focus on. One, it currently updates whatever database data is available in your SQL, maybe it's Microsoft or MySQL, whatever it is, and then puts it or fills that data converted into XML into data set. Okay, what if I had performed, instead of select, if I had given insert, update or delete, it will update the database, then fill it. Okay, I'll pause here, I'll repeat it again. Okay, when I use this, the command which I have highlighted here, it performs two operations. Number one, if it is a retrieval, okay, if it is a retrieval operation, it just fills the data set with whatever it got from that select query. But if it was an insert, update or delete, it first updates the database, then it fills the data set. I think I've put this in the slide also. Please do go through it once again. Okay, but it is not distinction. I mean, there is no distinction in that by the code. The code is still the same. The same code performs two operations. Please remember that. Okay, so at that moment, this moment, what happens? Line number 20, data set is filled with whatever data was available in the database. Okay, now the advantage of disconnected architecture is once you have filled the data set, your connection can be closed. You do not require your connection to be open to retrieve and show to the user the database. Okay, so what I've done here, please note, till now I have not talked to the grid view yet. There I had to talk to the grid view because if I close the connection, it will be null data which is coming to the browser, because it is a connected architecture. Till you perform all your operations, connection object must be open. Here, connection object can be closed as soon as you have filled it. Now, just like this, once your battery is full, you can switch off the charger. Just like that. Okay, remember this. So I've closed the connection. Now, what I'm going to do? Now, where is my data stored? It is all stored in dataset, DS. Now, I am going to call the grid view in my design, gv.employees.data source. Where is the source of data for that grid view? It is inside data set, DS. That's it. One line of code. I have to remember every time you write mapping or data source here, it is that data bind. Doesn't matter whether you're using disconnected architecture or connected architecture. Okay, this is conceptual. So, done. That's it, guys. This is the retrieval code. Let's run it. In the meantime, let me keep the code here. Please just go through it once. Okay, so SQL connection, adapter, data set. You're asking the adapter to fill the data set and close the connection. And after the connection is closed, still I can go and say data source of that particular grid view is my data set, and bind it and then send it back to the user. So when the user sees in the browser, what he will see is the data what at this moment in time, whatever was filled. If at all while this browser was loading, a new data was added, it will not be visible here. I hope you guys understand. It's a disconnected architecture, which means not synchronized data, not live data. Okay, there are lots of scenarios in which you do not show live data. Now, for example, imagine if the dollar rate, okay, that data, how much is $1 equal to Indian rupees or Malaysian rupees or whatever it is. Okay, that data gets updated every 1 day, not every minute. Okay, so what happens? I need not use I did not use connected architecture. I can use disconnected architecture, which means once it is retrieved for 1 full day, I'll not go to the database again. Okay, I can retrieve it immediately. Here, my output has come. My grid view is mapped it perfectly, and since I had given hover, when I move my mouse, that hover thing also happens. But anyway, 101 is the employee ID, and the employee name and the manager and employee year of joining. It's been retrieved. Wouldn't you have inconsistent data between the user and the database? Yes, that's why we say we do not use disconnected architecture for everything. We use it only when we find that the data is not going to change immediately. Okay, there are some stagnant data which would like to be shown to the user, that can be used. For example, the results. Okay, the results when it is published, it is not going to update immediately. It is going to be the same. So once you have retrieved it and stored it as an XML file, any number of user who comes will not be going to the database. Rather, you'll be fetching it from the XML file, which is the current version. Okay, so if you would like to stop that, then we can update the database and refresh the page once again, and you'll get the new data. Okay, that's how it is not recommended for transactions. I will tell the advantages and disadvantages in another class, but please do remember, disconnected architecture is not used to perform transaction or live data between the user and the database. Okay, it is only used when the data is stagnant and it is not required for the user to do so many round trips or open the database unnecessarily just to see the same data again and again. Okay, that's why we bring in disconnected architecture. Other databases do not offer this, but here we have this kind of a structure. Okay, I hope this is clear, guys. So let me move on to the next one. Let me quickly finish this. So let's go to the next one. Let's insert. Okay, so let me just add a new item. Let's give it as web page, web form with master page, and let me name it as insert.aspx. Okay, so let me just quickly do the design. Okay, let me just put a table, HTML table, and let me go to its properties. Okay, or let me just go to the source itself, table. Let me give class is equal to table hyphen bordered, so that you can see all the borders. All right, now let me go back to the design. Now I'm going to say enter. You can do the design as you want, guys. I'm just quickly doing it. Okay, so enter employee name, next will be enter designation, and last one will be enter year of joining. Okay, that's all I'm taking. So let me go back here. Let me just put all text boxes only. So standard, I'll go to text box 1, text box 2, and 3. 3 controls I have put. Now let me just add another tab and let me just put a simple button, not HTML button, ASP button. Okay, that's it. Now let me just choose all these 3 controls. Let me go to its property and give CSS class as form hyphen control, so that it looks like a bootstrap control. Now let me go to individual controls. First one is the text box 1, which is going to hold the name. So I'm going to say txt name. Okay, second one is txt desig, and the third one is txt yoj. All right, now the last one is the button. So let me go to the property. Let me name it as btn insert, okay, or btn add, whatever you want to give it as. I'll just say add employee. That will be the text. CSS class, we'll just give btn hyphen success. So I have the button. So my design is done. Now let's go to the code part. Okay. So design part is only this much. Just drag and drop controls, put them appropriate properties, and your design is ready. Now when I double click on, or when I click on this particular button in my browser, I would like all the data to be retrieved and passed to the database. So let me just double click on this button, and let's see, a new method has been created inside insert class. Okay, and the method called btn insert underscore click. This will be triggered every time you click on this particular button. And please do the validations on your own when you submit, or when you're doing it for your purpose. Please do validation. I'm not doing it because of the lack of time. Okay, so let me just move on. And here, first let me get all the 3 records from the user. So first I'm going to say emp underscore name is equal to, okay, that is string. So let me just keep string emp name is equal to txt name dot text. Second one, string emp underscore desig is equal to txt desig dot text. Last one is year of joining, which is integer. So I'll just put int dot parse txt year of joining dot text. Done. Okay, so now I've got all these 3 records. Please note, I will come here only after crossing all your validations. Okay, so remember that. And once I've got to that, what should I do? I should establish connection, just like how we had done here. So I'll take the first 2 lines of code, I'll put it here, and there will be an error because we have not imported or using system. Okay, I am typing in just because you should remember what is the name. System will automatically fill it if you want. Okay, SQL client. Do not forget this. All right, now let's move on. Connection is established. What is the second thing? Adapter. Let's do that. SQL data adapter. Let me name it as DA is equal to new SQL data adapter. I'm supposed to pass 2 parameters. One is the query. What query you want to perform. Okay, so let me put double quote and keep it there. Second one is on top of which connection would you like to perform this operation. So what do you want to perform and where do you want to perform? So let me just start. What do you want to perform? I want to write insert into TBL employee details. Okay, and I'll put it in brackets. I'll tell what are the 3 things I'm going to insert. I'm going to say employee underscore name, comma, employee underscore desig, comma, employee underscore YOJ, year of joining. What are the values? Okay, where am I getting that values from? So I hope till this the code is clear. So let me just start. What is the first one? Name. Since it is a character in SQL, single quote is required. With that, I'll concatenate that with the value what I got from C#, which is emp name. Okay, let me continue. Single quote, I close that. Then next control is designation, which is again a character. So a string. Let me put single quote. Let me close it. Let's continue with emp underscore designation. Let's continue. And let me close that single quote what I opened. Third value which I'm inserting is a number. So I need not give a single quote. I can just stop the single quote there and concatenate that with the emp underscore or I just gave YOJ. Right, YOJ. Okay, and it's not over, guys. Do not forget that. Okay, and you will have to close that bracket which you opened there. Okay, the bracket which you have opened here must be closed here. And then I've passed 3 records. Okay, that's all. This is my insert statement. Now with that, let me go to the next line. What am I supposed to do in the next statement? Okay, just look at the retrieve code. What did I do? I created a data set, I filled it. That's all I require. So let me just go back here and say data set. Please note, when I create a data set, you have to import system.data. Let me press enter and that will be added here. Okay, so data set, let me say ds is equal to new data set. Okay, and then da.fill ds. Now, please note, what have I done here? Okay, look at the code between retrieve and insert. Okay, there is no much difference. I've done the same thing. Only query has changed. Everything else remains the same. Okay. Now last line I'm going to write con.close because my work is done. I need not open the connection and keep. It's done. This is the same code for all. Only thing which will change is the query. Okay, please remember that. So now what does fill do? It updates the database and then fills the data set. Okay, for a retrieval operation, there's nothing to update, so it just fills the data set. But if it is a insert, update or delete, it first updates or changes the data in the database, then fills the data set. That one command does a powerful operation. Okay, please remember this line of code. Now at this point of time, even without checking, you can also say response.write inserted successfully. By the way, you're not supposed to write like this. I'm just writing it for my to just show the output, because by this time, if at all there is a problem, there'll be an exception thrown. So you have to put this entire thing inside a try catch, and then the catch block, you should throw the error. If it's try block, last line, you just say inserted successfully or take them to the next page or something like that. Okay, so here instead of writing inserted successfully, let me just take them to the next page. So I'll just say response dot redirect. I'll give the name as retrieve.aspx. Done. Okay, so if you run this program now, when you click on insert, it should insert the record in the database and then take you back to retrieve.aspx. Let's check that out if it works. Okay, let me just enter another employee record. Okay, so let me just say Lokesh, designation assistant manager, year of joining 2010. Let me just click on add employee. If the code was successful, it should take me to retrieve.aspx, in which the retrieval has happened and the data which I just inserted has been shown to me. Okay, this the working wise, the output wise, you do not see a difference between connected and disconnected, but the architecture wise, there is a difference between these two. I hope you guys follow. Okay, so that is insert, which we have done. Now let me quickly do the update also. Okay, so let me just add another ASPX form. So I'll say web form with master page. I'll name it as update.aspx. Now, since the design is somewhat similar to insert, let me go to insert.aspx and capture everything from the table. I'll just update a few things. I'll not sit and drag and drop everything one by one because I already have it. So let me just copy that table. Let me go to ASPX, and inside the content tag, let me put that table. Okay, so if you see the design of my update.aspx, we'll already have whatever I had kept in insert. Only one difference is that I'll have to add one more row on top. Okay, so let me just right click here and say insert a row which is above, just like how you do in Word document. Okay, row above. Now here I'm going to say choose an employee. Okay, and then there I'm going to put a drop down. Okay, a drop down list. Let me go back to its properties, and in the property I'm going to name that as DDL employees. Okay, first thing. And also I'm going to change the CSS class to form hyphen control. Alright, so that they'll all match together. Now it is done. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to change a few things before I proceed. Let me go to the source. Number one is the drop down list is a new one, so I need to change text name, let it be there, designation, let it be there, year of joining, let it be there. But button is not insert, so I'll change it to btn update. And here on click, this method will not be there in my program now because I created a new page. I copied this code. This is not available in my page, so let me delete it. Text, I'll change it as update employee. Done. All these things you can do from the design also. I just came to the code because I wanted to see how the code also looks like. Alright, so that's done. Now there is no error. This is like a brand new page which I have created from an already existing page. It's easy to copy paste and modify controls. Okay, so what is my target here? First, as soon as the page loads, I want this drop down list to be populated with all the employees' name. And when I choose a particular employee, I would like his records to be retrieved and put in these text boxes. And when I click on update, I want the new data to be updated to the database. Okay, so let's do all these three things quickly, starting with retrieving everything to this particular drop down list. How do I do that? Okay, for that it's very simple. Let's go to F7 and it'll open up the page. Already the method is created there called page underscore load, which means as soon as this page loads, please note this loads does not mean refreshing. Refreshing also is considered as load only for the page. So every time the page is post back or refreshed, okay, still this block of code will be called. So I'll start with a simple if condition. If not is post back. Okay, I have explained this enough in the last class, but I'm repeating it again. If it is not a post back, okay, for that you need to understand what is the post back. A post back is a refresh programmatically done by your system. Like for example, when you change the drop down, your page will be refreshed programmatically. That is a post back, which means you're calling that page once again, okay, with new data. But the system does not understand that. It thinks it's a new load. So ASP.NET has a way called post back to check whether it is a post back way you're coming to this page or is the first time you're coming to the page. If it is the first time you're coming to the page, it is not a post back. Okay, this is, you should remember this word, what I'm saying. Okay, if it is the first time you're coming to that particular page, it is not a post back. Okay, if you understand that, this condition will be simple. If not is post back. If it is not a post back, what does it mean? If it is the first time you are visiting this particular page, then open connection. So let me start with SQL connection con. Okay, I think I already have the code, so let me just paste it. Okay, so let me take it from insert. Since I don't want to repeat that, I'm going to copy that code and paste it here. Connection is done. Next is data adapter. So data adapter DA is equal to new SQL data adapter. What is the query? Select employee underscore ID, comma, employee underscore name from TBL employee details. Where do you want to execute this query? On top of that connection. Done. Okay, SQL data adapter. Next one is obviously data set. So let's create a data set which brings from system.data. Let me name it as DS is equal to new data set. What's the next step? Okay, fill that data set. So I want to call the adapter and then say fill the data set. Simple. Now after this particular line, you don't require the connection object. You can close it. Query is same, guys. Whatever I have written, the code is still the same. Only query is changing wherever it is required. Now my next step, I need to tell the drop down list. So I'm going to say drop down list employees dot data source is equal to this data set, the data set object. Okay. Then I'm going to call employees dot data value field is equal to what? Okay. You should tell what is the value field. Also DDL employees dot data text field is equal to what? Okay, you should be very careful of giving what is the value field and what is the text field. Last line is to data bind. Do not forget that. Okay, now tell what is the value field and text field. What the user will see will be text field. I want the user to see the name. What I want is the value, which is employee ID. So let me just copy employee ID and paste it as value, and employee name I'll copy and put it as text field. This is what I want. Okay, so let's run and check whether it is working. The first step in updation. Okay, so when I run update.aspx, if it is not the first time it is loading, I would like the drop down list to have all the records of the employee in my drop down list. Okay, so here you see that there is Karthik and Lokesh, but there is no dummy value. So let's insert that also and then proceed. So let me go here. Okay, and after everything is done, I can say DDL employees dot items dot. Okay, please note you are not supposed to add. If you add, it will go to the end. So let me say insert at index 0, select. Done. Okay, now if I run it, it will be the one which I'm expecting, which will be select will be the first item, and then below that you will have employee, whoever has been in the database. Okay, let's see the HTML code also simultaneously for that. Okay, select is shown, and then below that I have two values. Let me just go to the page source. Let's go to that drop down list and see how it has been generated. Okay, you can see that select from here to here. Okay, please note value of the first word is select. Also the data is select. That's what you're seeing. This is a dummy value. But the remaining things, value is 101, the text is Karthik, 102 Lokesh, and it goes on like this. Okay, please remember text is this and value is here. Data text field, data value field, and I'm getting a proper output. Okay, so let's move on to the second operation. Second operation is as soon as you change or choose a particular drop down list item in this particular place, I would like all these things to be updated. For that, please do remember or do not forget that there is a small option there called enable auto post back. This will force your control to post back each time you choose an item. Okay, so let me just enable it, and once I've enabled it, I'll double click on this drop down list. What will it be created? It will create a drop down list underscore selected index changed. Okay, so once you have chosen a drop down, I would like the data to come. How would I get the data? Let me just get int m underscore id is equal to int dot parse drop down list of employees dot selected value. Okay, the value what you have given, that's what I want, selected value. Okay, so let's keep it like this, and I hope you remember last class what I did. I was not getting it properly, so let me just try it now whether I'll get, oh sorry, I need to also print it so that I'll see what value is got there. So let me just stop and let me just print it and see whether I'm getting that number, because if I don't get that number, no point in proceeding. So I'll just say m underscore id, and let's see whether I'm getting that employee id what you have chosen. If you are getting the employee id, then I can proceed to the next step, okay, because I need to know which user you are choosing. Okay, so let's do that. Please note, last time I did not write that if not post back, so I was getting select only every time. But this time when I choose that, I get that particular corresponding person's employee id. I get it correspondingly. So I'm in the right track. Let's proceed. Okay, so what I should do now? Okay, now it's a very simple thing. As soon as this is done, let me open the connection. Okay, so I'm going to put that connection thing. Second one is data adapter. Let me name it as DA is equal to new data adapter. Select star from TBL employee details where employee underscore ID is equal to, what is that? Whatever the user has chosen, that I've set it in emp underscore ID. This is my first query. Where do you want to execute it? On top of the connection object. Done. So what is the query I'm executing? Select star from table name where employee ID equal to whatever the user has chosen in that drop down. And where do you want to execute it? On the con object. Do not forget this option. It might look like a small thing at the bottom. You might forget it, but do not forget this is very, very important. Okay. Now, next one is data set. So let me create a data set. Data set object. Let me name it as ds is equal to new data set. Okay, and I'll say da dot fill ds. It's as simple as that. Okay. Now we are going to go a little bit more interior, that I can close the connection, by the way. I don't require the connection anymore. Once I have filled the data set, I don't require the connection because it's not a dynamic data, it's a static data. Okay, so now what am I going to do next is, as soon as I've got the data, I need to put them in corresponding controls. So let's start with the name. Name dot text is equal to, where is it stored? Now this is a little bit more understanding is required. If what is data set? Okay, please note ds. I cannot directly say ds. ds is the collection of records. Okay, it has the full record what you have retrieved. But I would like to specifically navigate to a particular record and then display it. How do I do that? So first I'll say ds dot. Okay, inside that table, you will have a lot of tables. In that first table, what I'm going to say is ds dot tables. Okay, please note ds is like a data set. Okay, the data set is equal to a database which is written in XML. Okay, so from that tables, I am going to say in the tables there is a logic here. One database has n number of tables. which means imagine if I, instead of having one employee DB, inside employee DB, instead of just having employee details, if I had department details, salary details, like that, I have any n number of table. Now I don't want all those tables. I want the first table which is there in the data set, which means index is 0. Okay, tables of 0. In that table, please note I'm accessing it through like a structure. Data set is a replication of a database. So inside a database, there are n number of tables. The query which I have written will return only one table. So the index is 0. Inside that table, I am very sure there will be one row. So I'm going to say rows. Okay. And in that rows, which row? 0th row. Okay, because I'm very sure only one record will come. Why am I so sure? Because it is a primary key. Okay, now 0th row, by the way, it's a two-dimensional array. So which means 0th row, which column? Okay, let me just put 1 because, sorry, I'll just put 0 right now and let's see. And this returns an object. You cannot store an object inside a text. So obviously we'll say dot to string. Okay. So once you take this and convert it into a string and print it, let's check if it works. If it does not, we will change it. Okay, so first, let me just go through that table. I want you to picturize how the table would look like. Okay, so let me check whether it works. Okay, let me just choose this. All right, and you see which record came when I put 0, 0. I put 1 first. But I wanted to understand what was the one which is in the 0th column. Please note, I said select star from table name, which has 4 columns: ID, name, designation, year of joining, which means ID is at the 0th location. Okay, and if I put 1 here, it would have been name, 2 designation, 3 year of joining. So I don't require the ID. ID already I have got. So all I'm going to do here is I'm going to change that 0 to 1. That's it. Okay, so now I'm going to replace that txt designation dot text will be 0 and 2. Okay, txt year of joining dot text will be ds dot tables of 0. Why am I putting tables of 0? Is because there's only one table. In that one, I have rows. Which row? 0th row, because only one row will be returned by that query. And in that row, which column? I would like now the 3rd column. Okay, basically the 4th column. But anyway, since it's going to be put inside a text box, to string. Done. Our work here is over. Let's run this and see whether we got the required output. Okay, now the drop down is here. Let me just choose a particular person, and you see that all his records are retrieved and displayed in the text boxes neatly. Same thing we did in connected architecture, but the code was a little bit different. Here the code is a little bit more different because it's stored in a different structure. Please do remember this, guys. Okay. Now, the last part of the program is that when you click on update, I would like the update to happen. How do I do that? That's much more simpler now. Okay, so let me go back to the design and double click on that button. So a button will create another method, btn update.click. Now, just like how we did in the last program, if I click on update, I would like one data to be available to me before even I go to the update, which is the ID, who has been selected here. Okay, for that, I'm going to, instead of, if I write it here, this will not be available for me here. So what should I do? I should make it global. So I'll say int emp underscore ID. Okay, I'll create it there and I'll assign the value here. So globally initialized, locally assigned with a value. Okay, and this also we found an error because every time the page refreshes, the emp ID will be returned back to 0. So to fix that, I added the word static int emp ID. Okay, and it will not be changing every time you give a post back. The whatever value is stored there will be retained. Okay, that's it. Now I have ID, and once you click on update, I would like to take all the details. So let me start with string emp underscore name is equal to txt name dot text 1. Second one, string emp underscore desig is equal to txt desig dot text. Last one is int yoj is equal to int dot parse txt yoj dot text. Done. Okay, so now I have got all the records. All I need to do is perform the operations. Let's do that. Let's open the connection and let's call SQL data adapter and say DA is equal to new data adapter. Two things to pass. One is the query and second one is where to execute that query. So here, what is the query? Update TBL employee details set employee underscore name is equal to single quote. Okay, let me just show you completely. Then concatenate that with emp underscore name. Simple. Continue, and once that is done, let's close the single quote. Let's put a comma and then say employee underscore desig is equal to, again that's also a string, so single quote, and then let's close it. Let's concatenate with emp underscore desig and then continue, single quote, close, comma. Let's say employee underscore yoj is equal to, this is a number, so I don't require single quotes. I can just close and then concatenate that with yoj, what I took from the user. Okay, with that, it's not over, because if I continue with that, all my records will be updated to the same name. So I'm going to say where employee underscore id is equal to, there I'll stop and then concatenate that with emp underscore id. Done. This is my query. Okay, so let me repeat again. Update table set name equal to whatever the user has typed, designation is equal to whatever the user has typed, year of joining is equal to whatever user has typed, where employee ID is whatever he has chosen from the drop down list. That's it. Query is done. Next step is simply to create a data set. Let me name it as ds is equal to new data set, and let me just ask the data adapter to fill the data set. And after that, you can close the connection. And let me just take you back to the display.aspx or retrieve.aspx so that I can see whether it is done successfully or not. If there's an error, it will stay in the same page. Okay, let me run this. So as the procedure goes, the first step is to retrieve everything and display it in the drop down list that we have done. So let me choose a drop down list record, and once it is done, I am going to go and update. Okay, let me just give a new word and enter year of joining. Let me put 2005 and then click on update. If it was successful, it will take me to the next page where the record is updated to whatever I have given. So the update operation also works properly. So with this, we have completed retrieval, insert, update using disconnected architecture of ADO. I would like you to do the delete part on your own today, and let me know if you have any problems with that particular program. Okay. So with this, we'll stop for today, guys. If you have any questions, please do ask.